There's something happening in the space between your thoughts that you've never been taught to recognize. Right now, as you take in these words, your consciousness is performing an action so subtle, so continuous, that it operates completely below your awareness threshold. And this action, this mechanism, running every single moment of your waking life, is directly determining which version of reality materializes around you. I'm not talking about manifestation techniques or positive thinking. I'm not describing the law of attraction or any spiritual framework you've encountered before. I'm pointing to something far more fundamental, something that operates whether you believe in it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. Something that quantum coherence experiments and neurocardiology research have been documenting for decades, but that mainstream culture has completely failed to integrate. Your consciousness is broadcasting constantly, and reality is tuning itself to match that broadcast with a precision that would seem impossible if it weren't happening to you right now, in this exact moment, as it has been every moment of your entire life. What you're about to discover will either transform how you move through reality or challenge everything you thought you knew about cause and effect.
Let me show you the mechanism. Then I'll show you how to verify it's operating. And then, only then, will you understand why some people seem to move through reality as if it bends around them, while others experience constant friction, resistance, and struggle despite equal effort. In 1991, a research team at the HeartMath Institute made a discovery that didn't fit any existing scientific model. They were studying heart rate variability, the natural fluctuation in time intervals between heartbeats, when they noticed something extraordinary. The electromagnetic field generated by the human heart extends approximately 8 to 10 feet beyond the physical body in all directions. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was that this field carries information, detailed, complex, constantly updating information about your emotional state, your coherence level, and most importantly, your fundamental relationship with reality itself. And here's what made the scientific community deeply uncomfortable. Other people's nervous systems were detecting and responding to that information before any conscious interaction occurred. They demonstrated this in controlled experiments. Person A in one room, person B in another room. No communication between them. When person A's heart rhythm shifted into coherence, a specific measurable state of physiological harmony, person B's brain waves showed corresponding changes within 1.5 seconds. Not through any known sensory channel, not through sound or sight or any conventional signal, through the electromagnetic information field that person A's heart was broadcasting. But the implications went far deeper than telepathy or energetic sensitivity, because follow-up studies revealed something even more disturbing. Inanimate systems were also responding to these broadcasts. Random number generators, quantum devices that should produce truly random outputs, showed statistically significant deviations from randomness when placed near human subjects in coherent versus incoherent states. Reality itself, at the quantum level of probability and possibility, was organizing differently based on what the human electromagnetic field was broadcasting. Now, before your rational mind dismisses this as pseudoscience, understand that these results have been replicated across multiple independent laboratories. Princeton's Peer Lab ran variations of these experiments for 28 years. The Institute of Noetic Sciences documented similar effects. The research is there. It's peer-reviewed. It's repeatable. What's missing is the recognition of what this actually means for your daily experience. Every moment, your heart is generating an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your body. That field carries information about your internal state, your emotional coherence, your nervous system activation, your fundamental sense of safety or threat in reality. And that field is interacting with the quantum probability field around you, subtly biasing which possibilities collapse into your experienced reality. You're not passively observing a fixed reality. You're broadcasting a signal that reality is actively responding to, organizing itself around, materializing in correspondence with. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is, what are you broadcasting? I need to share what happened 14 months ago because it perfectly demonstrates the mechanism I'm describing. I'd been researching heart coherence for about 6 months, practicing the basic techniques, focused breathing, intentional emotional states, the standard protocols. I was seeing some results. Better sleep, lower stress, improved mood, but nothing that couldn't be explained by simple relaxation benefits. Then one afternoon, I was sitting in a coffee shop working on my laptop when someone at the next table started having a loud, aggressive phone conversation. My immediate physiological response was irritation. Heart rate spiked, breath shortened. That familiar tension of being disturbed, invaded, disrupted. But I'd been monitoring my heart rate variability through a biofeedback device. And I watched in real time as my coherence score dropped from the green zone into chaos. And I thought, this is exactly the moment. This disruption, this irritation, this is when I'm broadcasting incoherence most powerfully. So I did something counterintuitive. Instead of trying to calm down or think positive thoughts or ignore the disturbance, I stayed fully present with the irritation while simultaneously generating what HeartMath calls physiological coherence, a specific breathing rhythm paired with activation of appreciation or care. It felt paradoxical. I was holding irritation in my conscious awareness while my physiology was shifting into coherence. My heart coherence score started climbing back toward green, even though my emotional response to the situation hadn't changed. And then, something impossible happened. The person on the phone, mid-sentence, mid-argument, suddenly stopped talking, paused, said something conciliatory I couldn't quite hear, then ended the call calmly and sat quietly. My rational mind wanted to call it coincidence, but I'd been watching the exact moment my coherence shifted, and the behavioral change in that person occurred within 3 seconds of my heart entering coherent rhythm. I sat there, slightly stunned, staring at my biofeedback readout, and I started wondering, what else responds when I broadcast coherence instead of chaos? Over the next week, I tested it obsessively. In traffic jams, I'd notice my irritation, then shift to coherence while staying present with the frustration. Traffic patterns would shift. Cars moving, openings appearing with timing that seemed impossible. Intense conversations, I'd maintain coherence even while discussing difficult topics. The other person would soften, become more reasonable, find unexpected common ground. In one particularly striking instance, I was dealing with a bureaucratic problem that had been stuck for weeks. Multiple calls to the same agency, always getting stonewalled by the same scripted responses. I called again, but this time I spent 2 minutes before the call generating coherence, not trying to be positive about the outcome, just shifting my physiology into that measurable state of heart-brain harmony. The person who answered wasn't just helpful. They volunteered solutions I hadn't asked for, waived fees they weren't required to waive, and resolved in 10 minutes what had been impossible for weeks. Your skeptical mind is preparing explanations, confirmation bias, selective memory, random variance. And sure, any single incident could be coincidence. But I documented 47 distinct instances over 3 weeks where shifting to physiological coherence correlated with immediate environmental changes that directly addressed whatever situation I was in. The pattern was too consistent, too immediate, too specific to be random chance. Reality was responding to what I was broadcasting, not to my thoughts, not to my intentions, to the electromagnetic information field my heart was generating based on my physiological state. In the comments, drop one word that represents the state you think you've been broadcasting most often. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's fear, maybe it's chaos, maybe it's peace. Let that word be your starting point for recognizing what signal you're sending into the quantum field. Let me explain the mechanics of what's happening, because understanding the mechanism is what allows you to work with it consciously instead of being controlled by it unconsciously. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, approximately 100 times stronger electrically and 5,000 times stronger magnetically than your brain's field. This isn't poetic metaphor. This is measurable physics. The magnetic component of your heart's field can be detected several feet away using sensitive magnetometers. But here's what changes everything. This field doesn't just exist, it encodes information. When your heart rhythm is erratic, which happens during stress, fear, frustration, or any perceived threat, the electromagnetic pattern becomes chaotic, incoherent, jagged. When your heart rhythm is smooth and regular, which happens during states of appreciation, care, or calm presence, the electromagnetic pattern becomes coherent, organized, wave-like. These aren't just different patterns. They're different information broadcasts. Incoherent heart rhythms broadcast threat, separation, defense, scarcity. Not in words, obviously, but in the electromagnetic language that nervous systems, yours and others, are fluent in at a preconscious level. Coherent heart rhythms broadcast safety, connection, openness, sufficiency. And here's where quantum mechanics enters the picture in ways that neuroscience is only beginning to understand. That broadcast doesn't just affect other people's nervous systems. It affects the probability field itself. Quantum systems exist in superposition, multiple possible states simultaneously, until observation or interaction causes collapse into one specific state. Your electromagnetic broadcast functions as a continuous interaction with quantum systems around you. The firing patterns in other people's brains, the micro-fluctuations in traffic flow, the decision-making processes in seemingly deterministic systems. Your coherence level doesn't determine. When you broadcast incoherence, reality organizes toward outcomes that match that signal. Resistance, conflict, obstacles, friction. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because incoherent electromagnetic fields interact with quantum systems in ways that bias probability toward more chaotic, less optimal collapses. When you broadcast coherence, reality organizes toward outcomes that match that signal. Synchronicity, flow, unexpected solutions, supportive coincidences. Because coherent electromagnetic fields interact with quantum systems in ways that bias probability toward more organized, more optimal collapses. This is measurable. This is documented. This is happening right now, whether you're aware of it or not. The only question is, are you broadcasting coherence or chaos? Before we go deeper, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like something's clicking, if part of you is recognizing that your electromagnetic state has been shaping your reality, hit like if you just had an insight, and subscribe. Stay connected to this space. Grow with us. We're not just watching content here, we're awakening to our role as electromagnetic broadcasters in a responsive quantum field. Let's keep exploring together. Most people move through life in one of three electromagnetic broadcast states, never consciously choosing which state they're in, never recognizing that their broadcast is determining what reality delivers back to them. The first state is what I call defensive incoherence. This is your baseline state when you're stressed, threatened, frustrated, or operating from scarcity. Your heart rhythm becomes erratic. Your nervous system activates fight or flight patterns. Your electromagnetic field broadcasts a jagged, chaotic signal. In this state, your consciousness is narrowed. You literally cannot see solutions that exist right in front of you because your perceptual system is locked into threat scanning mode. Opportunities become invisible. People seem more hostile or indifferent. Resources feel scarce. But here's the critical part. This isn't just your perception being filtered. The quantum probability field around you is actually organizing differently. Random systems in your environment, which includes everything from traffic patterns to which phone call gets answered first, to whether someone decides to help you or ignore you, are biasing toward outcomes that match defensive incoherence. The universe isn't against you. Your broadcast is selecting for resistance because that's the information pattern you're transmitting into the field. The second state is what I call positive incoherence. This is what most manifestation teaching tries to create. Thinking positive thoughts, forcing gratitude, affirming desired outcomes. And yes, this feels better than defensive incoherence. Your mood improves. You have more energy. But your heart rhythm often stays erratic because you're using mental effort to override your actual physiological state. You're thinking, I'm abundant, while your nervous system is still firing scarcity patterns. You're affirming everything is working out, while your heart rhythm broadcasts chaos. The electromagnetic field doesn't respond to your thoughts. It responds to your physiological state, so positive incoherence creates a mixed signal. Hopeful thoughts, chaotic broadcast. Reality responds to the broadcast, not the thoughts. This is why positive thinking sometimes works, and sometimes completely fails. When your physiology happens to align with your thoughts, the coherent broadcast produces results. When your physiology contradicts your thoughts, the incoherent broadcast dominates. The third state is what I call natural coherence. This is the state the HeartMath research is measuring. It's not positive thinking. It's not forced emotion. It's a specific physiological condition where your heart rhythm becomes smooth, regular, sine wave, where your nervous system shifts out of fight or flight into a state researchers call psychophysiological coherence. In this state, your electromagnetic broadcast becomes organized, powerful, clear. And reality? The quantum probability field that's always responsive to electromagnetic information organizes toward outcomes that match coherence, flow, synchronicity, optimal collapse of possibilities. You don't have to believe in this for it to work. Your heart doesn't care about your beliefs. It cares about your physiological state. Generate coherence, and the broadcast changes. The broadcast changes and probability distributions shift. Probabilities shift, and different outcomes manifest. It's not magic. It's physics that biology is only beginning to understand. I'm going to give you a specific practice that will let you verify this mechanism is operating in your own experience. For the next 24 hours, I want you to notice, not change, just notice what state you're broadcasting from during routine interactions. When you're in conversation, stuck in traffic, dealing with technology that isn't working, making a purchase, encountering any minor friction in your day, just notice. Is my heart rhythm calm and regular, or is it racing and erratic? Is my breath smooth and deep, or shallow and held? Is my body relaxed and open, or tense and contracted? You're not trying to fix anything. You're just noticing what state you're in, because most people have zero awareness of their broadcast state. They're unconsciously transmitting defensive incoherence during 70 to 80% of their waking hours, and wondering why reality feels so resistant. After 24 hours of just noticing, start the actual experiment. For the following 48 hours, anytime you notice you're in defensive incoherence, stressed, frustrated, tense, don't try to fix the external situation. Instead, spend 60 seconds generating coherence. The technique is simple. Breathe slowly and deeply. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. While breathing, focus your attention on the area around your heart. While focusing there, generate a feeling of appreciation or care for anything real in your life. A person you love, a place that brings you peace, a moment of genuine gratitude. Hold that for 60 seconds. Your heart rhythm will shift toward coherence. Your electromagnetic broadcast will change from chaos to organization. And then, this is the important part, notice what happens in the next 2 to 5 minutes in your external reality. I'm not telling you what to expect because expectation creates bias. Just notice. Does the situation you were dealing with shift? Does a solution appear? Does a person's behavior change? Does something synchronistic occur? Document at least 10 instances of shifting from incoherence to coherence and observing what happens immediately afterward. If this mechanism is real, if reality actually responds to your electromagnetic broadcast, you should see a pattern emerge. Not every time, because probability isn't deterministic, but far more often than random chance would predict. And if you do see that pattern, if you verify through direct experience that shifting your broadcast correlates with reality, reorganizing in supportive ways, then you have access to something that changes everything about how you move through life. In the comments, share one commitment you're making to test this mechanism over the next 48 hours. Maybe it's practice coherence before difficult conversations, or shift my state in traffic, or generate appreciation when stressed. Your commitment matters. Your willingness to verify this through direct experience is the beginning of conscious broadcasting. Let me describe what naturally occurs when you learn to generate coherence consciously, not as prediction, but as documentation of what participants in coherence research consistently report. The first thing you notice is that resistance decreases dramatically, not because external obstacles disappear, but because your nervous system stops interpreting normal friction as threat. When you're broadcasting coherence, your perceptual system opens. You start seeing pathways around problems that were completely invisible when you were broadcasting incoherence. But it's not just perception. Other people respond to you differently. Conversations that would typically become adversarial stay collaborative. Service interactions that usually feel transactional become genuinely helpful. People volunteer support, information, resources without being asked. Your skeptical mind wants to attribute this to your improved mood or better communication. But here's what's actually happening. Their nervous systems are detecting your coherent electromagnetic field before any words are exchanged, before any conscious interaction occurs. And their nervous systems respond to coherence by downregulating threat response and upregulating social engagement. You're not manipulating them. You're broadcasting a signal their biology recognizes as safe, and they naturally respond from that recognition. The second thing you notice is that timing becomes uncanny. You arrive at locations exactly when you need to. You encounter people who have exactly the information or connection you need. Resources appear through channels you weren't even aware existed. This isn't the universe rewarding you for being coherent. This is probability distributions shifting in your favor because coherent electromagnetic fields interact with quantum systems in ways that bias towards synchronistic organization. The third thing you notice, and this is the most profound, is that effort becomes more effective. When you're broadcasting incoherence, you can work incredibly hard and produce minimal results because you're fighting against probability distributions that are biasing toward resistance. When you're broadcasting coherence, moderate effort produces disproportionate results because probability distributions are biasing toward flow. You're not working less. You're working with reality's responsive nature instead of against it. What I need you to understand about why most people never access this mechanism, even though it's operating constantly, there's an interference pattern running in your system that disrupts coherence before it can establish itself. And until you recognize this pattern, your broadcast will keep defaulting to chaos no matter how much you intellectually understand coherence. The interference pattern is identity-based threat activation. Your nervous system has been conditioned to interpret certain situations as threats to your identity, your worth, your survival in social hierarchies. And the moment that threat perception activates, coherence collapses instantly. Someone criticizes your work. Threat to competence, identity, coherence collapses. Heart rhythm becomes erratic, defensive, incoherence broadcasts. You check your bank account and see less than you want. Threat to security identity. Coherence collapses. Electromagnetic field shifts to chaos. You're in a conversation where you might look foolish. Threat to social identity. Coherence collapses. Your broadcast becomes protective, contracted, separated. These threat activations happen dozens of times per day. Each one disrupts coherence. Each disruption shifts your broadcast to incoherence. Each incoherent broadcast biases reality toward resistance. And you're probably not even aware it's happening because the activation is so fast, so automatic, so deeply conditioned. This is why understanding the mechanism isn't enough. You need to catch the interference pattern in real time and consciously choose coherence, even when your identity feels threatened. Especially when your identity feels threatened, because that's when your broadcast matters most. When you can maintain coherence while your identity structure is being challenged, you're broadcasting something extraordinary. I am safe, even when this identity is threatened. And reality responds to that broadcast by organizing in ways that support you independent of that identity's validation. The people who move through reality with that seemingly magical ease, they're not more talented or lucky or favored. They've learned, consciously or unconsciously, to maintain coherence even when normal identity threats would collapse it, so their broadcast stays clean, organized, powerful. And reality keeps responding with synchronicity, flow, and support. I'm going to give you a specific protocol that will reset your default broadcast state if you execute it consistently. This isn't theory. This is applied psychophysiology that produces measurable changes in heart rate variability, nervous system regulation, and most importantly, in how reality responds to you. Day 1 to 2, Awareness Phase. Set a timer to go off every 90 minutes during waking hours. When it sounds, stop and assess your current broadcast state for 30 seconds. Are you in coherence or incoherence? Don't try to change it. Just notice and document what state you were in when the alarm interrupted your normal flow. Most people discover they're in defensive incoherence 60 to 80% of the time. This recognition alone begins shifting the pattern because you can't change what you're not aware of. Day 3 to 4, Intervention Phase. Continue the 90-minute check-ins. But now, when you notice incoherence, spend 3 minutes actively generating coherence using the heart-focused breathing technique. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Attention on heart area, feeling of appreciation or care. Don't judge yourself when you find incoherence. Don't try to maintain coherence all day. Just do the 3-minute intervention when the timer reminds you to check. You're building the neural pathway that allows you to shift states consciously instead of being controlled by unconscious patterns. Day 5 to 6, Response Documentation Phase. Continue the interventions, but now add observation of what happens in your external reality during the 5 minutes after each coherence shift. Does the situation you were in change? Do unexpected solutions appear? Do people behave differently toward you? Document at least 15 distinct observations. You're gathering direct, experiential evidence that your broadcast affects probability, maybe a difficult conversation, a stressful meeting, a frustrating task. Generate coherence before entering the situation. Maintain it throughout, and document how the outcome differs from what you would typically expect. By day 7, your nervous system has begun recognizing coherence as accessible and safe instead of threatening or foreign. Your default broadcast state starts shifting from predominantly incoherent to increasingly coherent. And reality, the quantum probability field that's always responsive to electromagnetic information, begins organizing more consistently toward flow, synchronicity, and support. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to stay connected and hit the bell icon to get notified. You're stepping into a space where we explore the electromagnetic relationship between consciousness and reality. This isn't just a channel, it's a community of conscious broadcasters learning to work with the quantum field. If you felt something shift while watching, you're already changing your broadcast. Let's keep exploring together. Once you verified through direct experience that reality responds to your electromagnetic broadcast, something fundamental shifts in how you relate to challenges, obstacles, and circumstances. You stop trying to control external conditions and start managing your broadcast state because you've seen that shifting to coherence often changes external conditions more effectively than any direct action could. You stop interpreting resistance as evidence that something's wrong and start recognizing it as feedback that you've dropped into incoherent broadcasting. Resistance becomes a signal to check your state, rather than a problem to solve through force. You stop believing you're a victim of circumstances beyond your control and start recognizing that you're in constant electromagnetic dialogue with the probability field that's organizing those circumstances. This isn't positive thinking. This is physics-informed agency. You're not denying that challenges exist. You're recognizing that how you broadcast while facing those challenges determines which quantum possibilities collapse into your experienced reality. The person who broadcasts coherence while facing a financial challenge inhabits a different probability distribution than the person who broadcasts defensive incoherence while facing the same challenge. Same situation, different electromagnetic information field, different probability bias, different outcomes manifesting. This is why two people can have identical circumstances and radically different results. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's broadcast state determining which version of reality materializes around them. And once you know this, once you've verified it through direct experience, you can never fully unknow it. Your relationship with reality permanently shifts because you've seen the mechanism. You've seen that reality is responsive, and responsive systems can be worked with instead of struggled against. Share this with someone who's been struggling with resistance despite massive effort. You know who they are. That friend who works incredibly hard but keeps hitting obstacles. That family member who can't understand why nothing flows. Make sure you share this video. For you, it may be just sharing, but for someone, it may be the key that unlocks their understanding of electromagnetic broadcasting. Someone who's ready to shift from unconscious chaos to conscious coherence. And their breakthrough will amplify the coherent field we're all contributing to. The moment you notice your broadcast, reality notices you noticing, and in that noticing, everything begins to reorganize. The recognition happens now.